We are back on the Groovy People Show, IntellectualRadio.com, with a candidate for mayor of Chicago, Mr. Willie Wilson, who has been tagged. I see you have your own little hashtag, the friendly mayor.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here on Intellectual Radio, Groovy People.
Thank you. Thank you for having us again.
Yes. So let me first ask you, how does it feel? How do you feel about even having a hashtag? And where did it start, Mr. Friendly Mayor?
Well, the staff put things together, and they said, let's go with it. It sounds good. Certainly, I try to be polite and friendly to everyone.
Yeah, so far I've seen that.
Well, and that's how they really started, and I said, it sounds good. And so let's put it together and go with it. That's kind of how we got started.
Okay. Now, one question that a lot of people might have for you is, why are you running? You are a successful businessman. Your companies are doing very well. Why would you want to leave that and go into a business like politics? Well,
you said it right. Some of the fact is that I've been successful in life from a business standpoint of view. I've been helping people all my life. So you get your family taken care of, it's time to help others. You know, I'm from a South, and we was raised very poor. So at some point in time, you get your family and everything taken care of, you can take care of yourself. It's time for you to do things for others. But particularly in Chicago, one of the things that I really got disenfranchised, I guess that might be the right word for, was school closing. And, you know, like, you close a school without consulting with people who help put you in office. And you make those decisions on your own. And when you disenfranchise, I'd say not only our kids, but people who had jobs like school teacher, the janitor, the secretary, the landscaper, so all the contracts and things like that. And then you just close them. Now this kid got to walk 2 miles to gain territory. No protection per se. So instead of me just sitting on the sideline, I said, well, let me do something about it myself.
That's commendable. That alone is commendable, because most people, when they become established, they just want to make sure that they remain established or just comfortable and let everybody else handle their problems. So that's commendable, first of all.
Thank you.
Now, the situation in New York with the police department, because I know public safety, you've talked about public safety everywhere I've seen you, and I know that's a big issue with you. So what do you think about that whole situation? It's like, it's really strange. Now, they, first of all, the police department is turning their back on the mayor. They're not doing their job now. They say crime has gone down more than 50, I think 60% since they've done that. What are your thoughts on the whole New York situation?
I think it's tragedy. I think it's a lack of communication between the community and the politicians.
So how do we not get to that point here in Chicago?
Well, in Chicago, here's what I would do. First, I would fire the superintendent of police. That's the first I would do. And now, having fired him, you got to have a plan. But my plan would get rid of him. He hasn't done a job ever since he's been here. I would take 50 cities in 4 sections, have 4 police superintendents that can get closer to the people and communicate with the people. And after we do that, we would get things established and put some things in place. One, like taking 75% of the police out of the automobiles and ride the street bus, ride the L, walk up and down the street, get cold like the citizens get cold, and protect them. And how you get the money, you eliminate 75% of automobiles. City wouldn't have to pay for that. The gasoline, they wouldn't have to pay for that. You know, fixing all the mechanics, have to pay for that. So you would save money that way. Then I would also set up a review board that made up of the citizens that reflect the city of Chicago. And as we set that up, they will overlook it and make sure things are okay before they get to me. And we'll assign a task force that report direct to the mayor's office, another task force police office. So when a 911 call goes out, that there be somebody right there to be on the scene and report direct, independent of the police department, direct to the mayor. So that way, you know, it won't have that Ferguson situation or I can't breathe situation. Someone will be there watching and make sure things go the right way. And we would keep those lines of communication open. Next we would take the police officer, especially the superintendent, will have quarterly meetings with the leaders of the community to discuss things, get closer to the community, go to block club, PTA meetings. It's funny, Chicago is too, I'd say too segregated. And we would integrate the police force with white, black, Hispanic, Asian, and other Americans in the city of Chicago, so that you can get a chance to learn and relate to one another. You shouldn't have more white policemen in an African American community or Hispanic community or vice versa. We have to begin to bring people closer together and put a plan in place that we can deal with it and we can live together in the city of Chicago for all citizens. That's how I would begin it.
You say that Chicago is too segregated. One issue that comes up a lot is in the mostly black communities, you have businesses that are run by non-blacks in black communities. How would you fix a situation where we have, I think it's like a 40-something% black population, and we have all of these non-blacks doing business in those areas? How do you fix that? How do you get more minority or black business owners in black communities? I mean, can you legalize that? Is there a way to force that to happen?
Well, you can pass laws. The one thing that I would do, as I stated, I would set up to make sure it passed legislation that it would say that anybody who does city business with the city of Chicago, equally proportionally, will have to be entitled to the fair share of contracts and jobs. Anybody who does business in Chicago. Now, what that means is that Chicago does billions of dollars a year. You know, so if you represent 5% here, 10% here, 20% here, population-wise, that the law would say to get it passed, that anybody who does business in the city of Chicago, with the city of Chicago, will have to abide by those policies. All right? Meaning that if you got 25% or 50%, those contracts, those jobs will be proportionally spent with those different nationalities. So therefore, you can have job, you can have contract. You can take right now, for example, if you go to O'Hare and Midway, that's not reflective of Chicago. You go there and you got, you know, certain people been having the same thing year after year and year after year. Those come to billions of dollars. But it should reflect the makeup of Chicago. Because those O'Hare and Midway are the taxpayer dollars of the city of Chicago. So we would rule all that out and deal with those circumstances. The school board, all other people that does business with the city of Chicago, you pass a law. And that citizen board will review it. It's come up there, the citizen board will shoot it down. Get back to me until we get it right. Otherwise than that, we won't business. And also, if you happen to have a particular person that we're not in that type of business, we'll require that company to make sure that they will have a mentor program so that nobody left out. You grow the economy that way. You will cut down these taxes. Most people live in Chicago, drive out of Chicago for gasoline. Right? Right. So those are tax dollars. Tax is too high. You run us away.
But some people would say that's the plan.
Well, it may be the plan, but what you do, you lower your taxes. That when you go to the gasoline pump, you'll be competitive with the suburban, our neighbor state, Indiana, you know.
So how do you compensate for those lost funds?
Well, here, that's a pretty easy question to answer for you. Because when you lower your taxes, more people stay in the neighborhood and buy gasoline or shop, right? When you lower your taxes, more people from the suburban would then come downtown Chicago, buy gas, those type of things. When you lower your taxes from parking lot, use that for example, we got to compete with the parking lot in the suburban that you park free. Downtown Chicago, the tax is so high, you're forcing people out. So the more people shop, the more people come, the more businesses come and do business. You have people move out of the state of Illinois, businesses, and out of the city of Chicago because of high taxes. Those jobs going elsewhere. So you got to lower so you can get more. Because you raise your taxes, you're going to run more people away. That doesn't make sense. So that's how you get it. You put those incentives there. So people want to come in the city of Chicago and do business, shop where they at, without 25 or 50% of them going elsewhere buying gasoline, those type of things. I'm in business. I know that. I understand very well. I know I cut costs.
That no one can deny. That's something no one can deny. You mentioned contracts. Most conversations nowadays are about the contract that was made with these parking meters. How do you get rid of that burden?
Well, here's where I would do it as your mayor. You won't. The city shouldn't break a contract if you have signed a contract, because you set up yourself a lawsuit. So that's not the way to go.
Mm-hmm. So how do you?
But you can have it's free enterprise. We'll make some deals with some of the hotel parking lot downtown. We'll also take some of the land that the city owns and put parking lot there. Let an entrepreneur come in, represent the neighborhood fairly, put together and sell those vacant lots for $1.
So you basically want to run them out of business.
That's correct.
Okay. Businessman. Okay.
Right. I mean, that way we do it in business,
Yeah.
But not only that, it has happened. It has happened to empower the community. And when you empower the community, people don't rob and steal and shoot up people. So we would do that. And then how would they get the money, you would say? We would leverage our money that we deal with banks for them to lend our citizens the money. And that's how we would deal with that, because those are the citizen taxpayer dollars. They're entitled to it. So we would leverage that and make that possible, and they would just pay back the city. The city would pay, they'll give the city 5% or 10%, whatever that may come to, and they'll lease the land. The city would lease the land to our citizens. And lastly, on that, in terms of money-wise, how you get out of the debt in terms of adding these things, like you got people losing their pension. You got how we deal with school board crisis and things like that. When you add more to that, I will open up a MagField. MagField create jobs and contracts, but they have to do it with the citizens of Chicago, all right? I will also open up a casino. If you go to Gary, Indiana, Hammond, Indiana, I believe it is, Joliet, or someplace like that, you go out there, you look at those cars sticker. They're from Chicago. But who's getting the jobs and the contracts? I would put it in the city of Chicago, and when we put it in the city of Chicago, what they did, we'll let the citizen own the casino itself.
How do you do that?
Taxpayer dollars. That's their dollars. You invest the taxpayer dollars, which is their dollars, and have a casino, and it makes profit and growth. And then those dollars turn around, we put that for our schools and our roads, things of that nature. Then also, the contract, the job reflects a different portion of our community.
Okay. All right. Now, do you have any plans for the schools that have already been closed? Because right now, as it stands, it's just thousands of acres of land that's unused now.
Well, this mayor here have closed the school. When you close school, you to a child, a kid, you closing their future. But when you open school, you open up their future and horizon. You know, we can do that. But what we would do, we would take and reevaluate the 50 schools that was closed. You see, I don't know whether some of them were okay to close or not, but what this mayor failed at was that he didn't consult with the community.
Okay.
Right? But let's just say that 25 schools that the citizens decide to reopen. The citizen, not the mayor, but the citizen, all right? Contact, I give leadership. Then we will open those 25 schools back up. Now, the other 25 schools, we will open up trades for our school kids. Trades. That they can take trade and go in there and do business like mechanics, you know, or body shop work, or a computer lab. Open up trade. Now, how you do trade? You do trade with the private section, but to kickstart it off, you do business with the city of Chicago itself. You know? And you those schools, we also will let the citizen invest in it, buy, sell to them for $1. It's sitting there right now costing millions and millions of dollars a day, you know, just for school being closed, because you still got to have the heat, you know, otherwise the pipe gonna bust. You still got to have the outside maintained, you know. You still got to be all these things maintained, and so you're losing millions and millions of dollars a day or a week. Well, why not give it to somebody for $1, put a bid in there, put trade in there, and make money, and then you help the community.
Okay, so one thing I like to ask of all people that are running for any office is, what will the people see immediately from your office after you get elected? You know, because we sit around and, you know, politicians make promises, and we sit around, we wait for months, and then we forget the promises, and before you know it, a whole term has gone by. We haven't seen any changes.
Well, one thing they'll get somebody not going to close down 50 schools. They'll get that for real.
We'll never see that again.
Right? So you'll get somebody that will not close down 50 schools. You'll get somebody that you can communicate with. You won't have to have an appointment to get to see me. Just come in down the line, I get you one by one. We'll set certain days that we can do this, because, I mean, you put me in office, you deserve to come and see me when you want to see me, all right? So you'll get that type of mayor. You'll get the mayor that would present legislation that said all citizens of Chicago, represent Chicago, will benefit from jobs and contracts equally. You get that started out, you know. And then you'll get the leadership that someone that have a proven record. If you look back over my record, past 25 to 30 years, I done give it away to churches and other organizations, over $30 million my own money.
That's another thing that, now this is just personal, there are so many churches, especially in the poor communities. How do you hold church leaders accountable for the conditions of the community, or do you?
Well, let me put it this way. You have to look at it this way. We have a lot of what you call depressed, economically speaking. Just because you're a pastor, you still got the same temptation. You still got a family to take care of too. You know, all pastors not, let's say, holy, all right? None of them, don't care what color you happen to be, all right? You got issues too. If you got a family, you didn't have the money to send your kid to school. Okay, our pastor have to preach and don't even get a salary.
Okay, but what about mega church leaders?
Well, you know, I'm not for sure that everybody practicing what they preach. You know, you have to look beyond that. You have to look at everybody as a citizen, right? And church or a non-church, everybody as a citizen. You can't just focus on church, although I am, because people make your success if you can really communicate with them in the right way, all right? You would have to put together the teachers, the parents, the students, and come up with an idea of what worked for them. Because what worked for somebody, it may not work for the other person, so there's a lot of different ideas and a lot of different nationalities in the city of Chicago that we have to all come together. Because what may be good for the African American community or the white community may not be good for the other community. And a case in point would be this too. Our kids in the urban area, depressed area, we don't have the thing that someone in Overbrook or Highland Park have. So there's an unequal balance there, Our kids today, I guess one thing would be reform, I guess, to think of it, was that I would try to get rid of all books and put computers in school, Today, our school teacher is taking and going in their pocket because the kid doesn't have a book and giving them money to try to get a book. Well, when you start the kids out with a book, you already start behind time. Start them out with a computer like the phone, the iPod that they carry around all the time that you can get anywhere, all right? We have to try to change the way of thinking and doing it. How will we get those computers? Well, here again, Magfield, they lower the taxes, bring more people in, and attract more businesses. Chicago it cannot be successful in terms of long as we stay segregated, different. We must brand our city. We must brand our city in a way that national people who come into the city, international people come into the city. When you got crime high in one neighborhood, corporation not going to come into the city. So if you can get that down by making sure that economic empowerment stays in place, then you brand the city. You brand Chicago as a very positive city who cares about all the citizens. And you don't give sweetheart deals to the people that you know. You give to all citizens, you put that in law, then people be a lot more friendly. But when you got a hostile mayor like this right here, all this people that he give this business to, nobody will ever have no peace. That's the root of the problem. The mayor doesn't work on trying to bring people together, but he works on separating them. That's a mere fact by school. He doesn't care. When I asked him about his kid, what school they go to, he said it's his own business. Well, he got another 40, 50 days, he'll be out of there.
This is a fact. This is a fact. Now, you mentioned something about businesses leaving the community, but if you gave them a sweet spot, if you offered them some kind of an incentive, a major corporation, an incentive for building or providing jobs in the inner community, that could work as well. Right now there are major businesses being forced out because of laws and taxes and other stuff,
Those taxes give incentive, give breaks where people can come in. When people got jobs, they're proud. When you don't have jobs, you lose your self-esteem.
Yeah, some of them get angry.
Get angry, that was right there. You see this I can't breathe thing. I mean, this mayor right here, when I was running, if you notice it, I spent a lot of money. We had 47,000 signatures. And this mayor said none of them was no good. This mayor said that I was all kinds of names. He hadn't even checked it out. It reminded me, I said, well, if I let this go, how is, Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King, all the people died for this. So I couldn't let it go.
Yeah, I heard you speak once before, and one thing that struck me, I forget what the content around it was, but you said something about just the utter disrespect that we're getting from the mayor's office right now bothered you.
Total disrespect. It bothered me on the school. It bothered me on the contract. It bothered me that our taxpayer dollars, that when someone goes to try to apply for something to get some business, they take one neighborhood taxpayer dollars and you don't have enough money, but you take my taxpayer dollars and give it to somebody else that don't even live in the city of Chicago.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you said that you were very accessible, which I guess is why you got that little hashtag. What I did find out just today is that you have your own radio show. Tell us about that.
My own TV show.
TV show, okay.
Sing Station, the gospel entertainment show, every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. On Channel 9. And this is our 26th year. We display people who sing gospel music and host them, and the people who in in prison and the people who are in hospitals that can't get out to church, that they can get some form of spiritual. You know, I sing every Sunday. It's amazing that all the mail I get from somebody that said they got saved. People in prison said, look, we need to have, can you send me some money for soap? Well, you know, I didn't know much about it. I thought that the prison supplies soap. But I guess they don't.
Really?
Yeah, and I have to send money for soap and things of that nature. You know, and I just, whatever comes in, we don't ask questions, we have a budget there, we send them money.
Okay.
No
So
question.
you're all about prison reform as well then?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, well, I'm just going to bring up something that I was thinking about earlier now. In Colorado, they have the whole marijuana legislation and reform there. And they've raised $1.1 million to build new schools in Colorado just from that. Also another $2.5 million, and I think this is less than a year, to hire new staff, medical staff, and educational staff for the school systems. How do you feel about that whole topic?
I've never done drugs before in my life. In fact, if you put it down in front of me, I have to kind of figure what is it, you know. So I'm not that, but I do understand it, you know, because I understand that I had a 20-year-old kid got shot and killed on drugs. So I'm very sensitive about things like that. But I would guess the best thing for me to do is that, since I don't understand it clearly or anything like that, I suppose I would pull together a task force made up of the community to let them come up with an idea to make that decision. I do know this though, they smoking in a marijuana regardless, and they're putting people in jail. Okay, so I suppose one thing could be good about it. That is that if you're putting people in jail for just an ounce in certain neighborhoods, not putting in other neighborhoods, at least
And classes too.
Right.
It depends on your occupation.
Right, right. So it's unbalanced and unfair. So if the people decide that they wanted it, I would go at the wish of the people.
Okay, that's a good answer. I like that. I like both answers. People and pulling together a team about something.
Absolutely
I
right.
like that a lot. What is it that you would just like to share with people that maybe we haven't talked about, that you would just like for them to know about you?
Well, one thing I like the people to go to my website and get the information. I know I can't tell it all on here tonight, but electwilliewilson.com, all right? electwilliewilson.com. The thing that I want people to understand is here is that I'll take a salary from the city to pay me, but I'll give it away to the churches and other organizations, okay? I don't want any money. I'm okay myself with my businesses, okay? I would like to see a two-term mayor in law, because I think a person staying there too long to get to know their friends, and the rest of the community suffer because of it, all right? And I'll let them know that I am out here to help the citizens of Chicago. I'm out here to help bring people together, not to divide, separate, you know. I mean, my only motive is to help. My life have changed lately, you know. When I become mayor, it's gonna change more. I was brought up poor, and I never left the community. And I will stay here to help people. I got out here to help. I look around, and I look around at some of the other candidates, and I listen, you gotta have some money, okay, to be in this race, even if it's buying flyers and radio advertising, right? So I look around and I say, well, maybe, but since all these people ask me to run, well, maybe I'll just get out here and do it. I don't really need the money. So I said that, let me get out here, because if you get out there with no money, they take it for granted. So let me get out and do it. And that's why I got into it. I want the people to know that I'm here for real, and I'm running strictly because of that and nothing else. I want them to know that I care about their livelihood. I'm African-American. I care about them getting contracts. You know, I'm gonna fight hard for them to get contracts. I'm gonna fight hard for them to take them, not for, but get rid of the red light cameras.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna fight hard for that. I'm gonna fight hard for the mayor to put these other taxes on churches, like water bill. All it is a tax, you know, water bill. When you hear the mayor saying that, look, I'm for minimum wages. He for minimum wages, I am for minimum wages, but he for minimum wages, for 3 months before re-election. Why wasn't he there 4 years ago? I would be the mayor that started out day one, all right, to do that. But I will also support minimum wages. I will support contracts. Business with the city. We will set up loans that you can get, that you ain't got to go to no hassle. You ain't got to go and say, so-and-so, I have to go to all these things, show my personal income taxes before I can do business with the city. If you are a non-minority, you don't need to fill out all these things and show your personal stuff, all right? You will cut out all that red tape, all right? For every citizen, we look at the same, and we be dealt with the same. If it's good for one community, one nationality, it'll be good for everybody.
Well, you did say you would donate your salary. That holds true.
I donate my salary. Look, I made 6-year-old in June. I donate my Social Security check.
You do that now? Okay.
I've donated from day one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will continue to do that as long as the Lord provides me to do so.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you got a team that's telling you where to donate the money.
Well, what I do is this here. I don't judge a church or organization. I just go off the field. But I don't ask for nothing but just give me a receipt. That's pretty much all I do. Because I was poor, a lot of things that I didn't have, but I shouldn't have been, take and push aside because I didn't have it. You know, doesn't make you bad because you don't have it. You know, so that's what I do. If somebody the kids, they don't have an education. I only got a 7th grade education, 1 day in school. I don't believe in, you gotta take a test to get a job. I believe you should be paid, be trained to get a job, not because you can't take a test and pass it.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much for being here with us, Mr. Willie Wilson,
Thank you.
Chicago's friendly candidate. I just think that is so funny that we have a man running for mayor with a hashtag. But yeah, you are a friendly guy, and I appreciate you coming to Intellectual Radio, hanging out with us here on Groovy People, and we will keep our eyes on you.
Thank you. Vote for me.
All right.